How are you?
You're good to go now, Jose.
Recording in progress. Ooh, that means we have quorum. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. We had a little slight situation, but gladly we worked through it. Thank you all for being here and being here promptly. Tonight's Public Safety and Transportation Committee meeting tonight is May 10th and it's 6:33. And Angel, you're sharing, or am I looking at the wrong thing? No, that's your shared screen. Did you put up our typical agenda? So we can get right into
it. Is the PowerPoint not showing?
No, I see your Windows Explorer and I see it says open Zoom meeting.
Oh no, you're on the wrong screen. You see all my secrets.
Oh yeah, I see it. I saw what you were browsing. I'm not gonna get into
Yeah,
it.
I was writing your resignation.
I'll call you later.
Your resignation letter. I'm halfway through it.
Oh, thank God, finally out.
Let's just proceed without the slideshow until I figure it out.
All right, give me 1 second.
Yep.
Estoy en una reunión. Dígame lo que necesita. No, no hay problema. Dígale cuando se siente mejor que pueda venir. Pero que avise antes para poder coordinar. Para despacharle. No hay problema. Tranquilo que todo el mundo se enferma. Este es el tiempo que todo el mundo se enferma. Sorry about that. I was closing the door to my office and somebody was trying to catch me. Okay. Hey, Don.
Is it showing now?
Nice restaurant you have behind you. Okay, so we did this already.
Is the PowerPoint showing now, Jose?
Now it is, yes. Go to the next slide, please.
Weird.
All right, ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. Click the participant icon. The participant panel should appear. You should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulties, you may click on the chat icon and relay your difficulty to the staff. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you're having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated out loud on the record during the meeting. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to discussion. Again, let me repeat that one. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subject on the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom and wait to be recognized. So we are doing a call to order. We're doing the nay thing. Anyone?
Committee members, when I call your name, please answer present. Jose Altamirano.
Present.
Eric Alcancela. Dan Colliers excused. Carlos Diaz.
Present.
Judith Febraro.
Judith is also excused.
Josendi Garcia. Marissa Mack.
Here.
Jessica Morris.
Here.
Miguel Pava.
Here.
Don Sanders.
Present.
Michelle Wilcher Clement.
Present.
You have quorum.
Thank you. We're going to adopt the agenda. We'll do it by, Joe, is any way we're doing it by mission?
Just ask if there's any objections.
Are there any objections to it? No one objects. Perfect. So we're adopting the agenda. Let's move on. Announcements. Next meeting of this committee will be on June 7th, which is the last until our summer break. District Attorney's Office will host a gun buyback on June 25th, 2022. The event will be held at the Soul Saving Station, 302 West 124th Street, in Frederick Douglass and St. Nick, from 10 to 4. Payment will be a prepaid card, $500 for an operable gun or an assault rifle, $150 for a rifle or shotgun, $50 for BB and imitation pistols. 5-gun limit on each payout. For more information, New York City gun buyback program to reduce violent crimes. Call 646-610-5323. This is really good information. We're going to see if we put this out to the community. And now we go to informational updates. We will begin with Officer Gibbons from the 2-3 precinct.
Thank you very much, Jose. Thanks everyone for having me. It's my pleasure to be here. Officer Gibbons, Community Affairs from the 23rd Precinct. Let me begin. So citywide, we remain stubbornly high in crime. We are up 41.3% year to date in major crime. We were 44.1% up since the last we spoke. So we're headed in the right direction, at least. We're up in every category of major crime citywide, except for murder, which we are down 13.8%. So something to be thankful for, at least. 138 people are killed this year versus 160 in 2021. But every other category of major crime is up significantly citywide. In the 23rd Precinct, year to date, we're up 25.3% in major crime. The 28-day period, the last 28-day period, we're up 36.8%. So I'm going to break down the 7 categories of major crime to show what's kind of driving our crime through the roof of late. So murders, thank God we haven't had one in the 28-day period. Our last homicide in the 23rd Precinct was actually February 16th. So another small blessing. Rape, we had 1 in the 28-day period. We had none last year. Our rape was a statutory rape. A teen female was having an intimate relationship with an older man. Robberies, we had 15 this 28-day period versus 10 last year. The uptick in robberies this last month is basically being driven by commercial robberies. Our small businesses are being robbed, 4 at knife point, 1 at gunpoint, 1 what we call a strong arm, physically assaulting the store manager and taking property. So small businesses, our 7-Eleven got hit 3 times, the one at 104th and Lex, and other commercial robberies were sort of corner groceries that are being hit. Felony assaults, 31 in the 28-day period this year versus 25 last year. So another slight uptick. As always, domestic violence is really driving our felony assaults. We had 13 in the 28-day period. 13 of our 31 felony assaults were domestic in nature. And then again, a continuing trend that we've seen as people are more likely to be carrying weapons now. We see fights devolving into somebody grabbing something, whether it be a knife, a bottle, a shiv. In one case, we had a crowbar used. We had 13 fights in which someone picked up some kind of weapon or some kind of object that they use as a weapon and assaulted their victim with it. Burglaries. Oh no, let me, while we're talking about felony assaults, let me talk about the shootings. So we had 3 shootings in the 28-day period. They were all on Saturday, May 7th. So very recent. On Saturday evening at 110th Street and 5th Avenue, that's Frawley Circle. That's sort of the east side of Duke Ellington Circle up there at 110 and 5th. We had 2 people shot. They were young. One was 13-year-old, shot in the leg, and a 14-year-old grazed in the stomach. Not life-threatening injuries, but obviously these are young people who are being targeted. So we're the early results of our investigation show that this is probably a crew-related or gang-related shooting. They were folks from the west side of 5th Avenue, King. They had sort of a King affiliation, and they were in Lehman territory. And in fact, they were deeper into Lehman territory than that sort of 5th Avenue border. And LA World, the crew from Lehman houses, probably shot at them. So that we haven't made any arrests yet, but we have a lot of good video and a lot of good leads in that case. So they were actually up to no good, believe it or not. 13, 14-year-olds were over in this territory. And we think that because of additional evidence that we received in our follow-up investigation. So they were young, but as we've seen in the past, The young members of these crews are also heavily involved in the gang violence and the gun violence. Then on the same day, we had a 47-year-old who was shot in the thigh at roughly 104th Street and 3rd Avenue, and probably related to a narcotics trade that goes on in that area, 103rd, 104th, 3rd Avenue to Lex. There is a lot of, especially marijuana being sold on those blocks. So we think there might be a narcotics angle based on the history of the victim. And then I just want to mention last night, while no one was actually shot, we had a shooting incident at 1695 Madison Avenue about 6:30 in the evening. Two young men, one 15 years old and one 14 years old, from Lehman houses, went over to Johnson houses, where there's obviously a history of conflict going back to the homicide of Lewis Encarnacion several years back. They went and shot up a group of people in Johnson houses, and thank God they missed. So 15-year-old, 14-year-old, both with loaded guns. How do we know their age? Because they were caught in the act by footposts from PSA 5, Police Service Area 5, who witnessed the incident, chased them down, caught them with loaded guns as they were trying to run back towards Lehman houses. Just incredibly sad to talk about, but thank God no one was hit. Again, what we're seeing in these crew instances, a lot of times, like, these young people are being specifically picked out by older members of the crew to do the shootings because they know that absolutely nothing will happen to them. They're 14 and 15, so I guarantee they're back today, back home, and telling all their friends about their adventures and gaining a lot of popularity among the other crew, and telling everyone that it's okay to have a gun and shoot as long as you're not 18 years old. So that is a real problem that we're seeing, and I comment on pretty regularly. Next category, burglaries. We're up very significantly, 15 in the 28-day period versus 6 last year. What's driving that? It's kind of a mix of different things. We had 4 construction site or construction vehicles like vans that were broken into. We had 5 residential burglaries, but most of those were from people with inside knowledge of the property, either acquaintances of the person who lives there or former roommates. And 2 were thefts from a common area, 202 East 110 Street, where the door was just faulty. And that's one thing to always remember. If you're living in an apartment building and your front door doesn't feel absolutely secure, please talk to management, please talk to your super and get that fixed very quickly, because eventually someone will figure that out and break in. Grand larcenies, we had 36 in the 28-day period versus 26 last year. By far, our biggest problem is thefts from motor vehicles. That's been a continuing trend and a chronic issue for the past several months. I've commented on that during these meetings. There were 8 thefts from motor vehicles where the theft was from a property of $1,000 or more just in the last 4 weeks. I mean, I can't reiterate it enough. We have to stop leaving valuable property in our cars and just leaving it overnight in remote locations. So we're talking 114th and Pleasant got hit twice, 107th and the FDR, 110 and Park Avenue under the railway viaduct, 106th and 5th, 110 and 5th, where there's very little pedestrian traffic late in the evenings, early in the mornings. So again, we got to stop parking in remote locations and leaving things like $3,300 Gucci bags, MacBook Pros, PS5s, purses, wallets with our credit cards and money inside. Oh, and a 14 karat gold car grill. All right. So if you got it like that, I hope you're good to replace it, because it's going to get stolen if you park at 114th and Pleasant. Other categories we've noted in the past: unauthorized charges on our credit cards, please, or to our accounts. Monitor those accounts, set up those accounts for alerts that you get if there's any unusual activity, something that doesn't fit our personal algorithm. These banks are set up to alert us to those kinds of things. Scams, always an issue, right? Constantly mentioning it. The one thing that seems to pop up, it's not extremely common, but every every month, at least once or twice, it comes across my computer screen. Listen, if you're out there looking for love, be careful. All right. Be careful who you're sending your pictures to. If you don't really know them, if you haven't met them yet, please don't send intimate pictures. All right. They're being used to blackmail people. And that's a common scam that we're seeing pop up every now and then. But it's pretty consistent. So just be aware of who you're sending your photos to. In addition, of course, the fake callers. Okay, we had someone posing as someone's bank, someone posing as a realtor with property to sell. You send them a down payment. There's no property. There's no sale. Last category, grand larceny of autos. That's the auto theft. We had 6 in the 28-day period versus 8 last year. Only 2 were actual cars. One was, stop me if you've heard this one. One was left running with the ignitions, with the keys in the ignition at 108th Street and 3rd Avenue. Don't tell me someone won't notice and take it for a joyride. Well, they did. The 4 others were scooters or mopeds. They are the hot commodity these days. No particular location that's being targeted in general, but again, 107 and the FDR, 107 and First Avenue, be aware that certain locations are remote. There's not a lot of pedestrian traffic at night, and there aren't any cameras or good lighting. So if you're going to park your motorcycle, your moped, your scooter in a location, make sure you've got lights, cameras, something looking at it. Lastly, let me just get into that traffic collision report that I've been giving over the past couple of months. Nothing heavy to report. Where collisions are down 63 versus 66 on the 28-day period. Injuries are down 22 versus 29 in the 28-day period. Our critical locations, 106 and First, bit of an issue over there with bikes and pedestrians. Can't nail down exactly why. It doesn't seem to be an extremely heavily trafficked intersection, but we have had issues there. Plus, there is a light for the bicyclists to make that left onto 106. So you would think that would be a helpful safety measure, but unfortunately we did have 2 bikes that were involved in collisions over there. Lexington Avenue, 110 to 112. 6 of those were rear ends. So we just get a lot of stop and go traffic on Lexington Avenue because of mostly deliveries, people double parking for commercial purposes, whether they're customers or making deliveries. And so that's an issue. And Madison Avenue, again, as I say all the time, in and around Mount Sinai. And lastly, before I forget, no, I'm sorry. Forgive me. That's a different issue. I'll stick around for questions after the after the 2-5 or anyone else gives their.
Thank you, Officer Gibbons. We're going to do the questions together after the 2-5, and I think I saw Officer Grossman here. Yeah, we have a lot of. What's her? There she is.
Yes, I'm here.
How are you?
Good. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about the stats real quick for the 2-5. I see here we have, I want to talk about mainly the week to date because there's a few significant things that have been going on that I want to touch on. So there's been 0 murders, thank God. There's been 1 rape, 2 robberies, 13 felony assaults, 3 burglaries, 14 grand larcenies, and 1 grand larceny auto. So basically, I'm going to break this down. In regards to the robberies, there's been 2 in the past week. One of them was involving a firearm, someone who was robbed at gunpoint. In regards to the felony assaults, out of those 13, only one of them is someone who was shot and sustained an injury. And we believe that that person was known to the victim. So we believe that that should be solved pretty quickly. But what I really want to touch on is the burglaries and the grand larcenies. So we've had 3 burglaries just in the past week compared to 1 from the same time last year. And so I really wanted to emphasize that it's really important to do your security surveys because out of those 3, 2 of them were in commercial establishments. One of them was an attempt. Nothing was actually taken, but in the other two, there were things taken. So I want to make sure, please reach out to your crime prevention officers for your business to make sure the security survey is being done, to make sure that your cameras are working properly. That way we can quickly solve these cases. And then lastly, I want to touch on the grand larceny. Most of these grand larcenies, there's been 14 in the past week. Most of them have been delivery men. So people who are doing deliveries on the mopeds or the e-bikes, and they do not secure their bikes when they're going into a building or when they're going into the store to pick up the food. So I want to stress again, please make sure that everyone is letting their friends and their friends know, please secure your bikes. I know it seems like a very short time, but just lock up your bike before you go into the store and make sure that they're not being taken. So that's been the most of the grand larcenies. I think those are the most important things in regards to the crimes that have been going on. In regards to the collision locations, we haven't had any very significant collisions since last time, but we still have our collision prone locations, which would always be 116th and 3rd Avenue, 125th and 3rd Avenue, 125th and Lexington. So we continue to monitor those areas. Yeah, so any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Custer. I see Marissa Mack has her hand up.
Yes, hi, thank you. Thank you to both the 2-5 and the 2-5 and the 2-3 for presenting the stats. Unfortunately, they are very alarming on several levels, but I feel like that's actually throughout the city overall, so not necessarily just here. I did have a question in regards to the safety for small businesses, and if there's anything that has either maybe I have missed it or anything that has been done in terms of, maybe like a general meeting that could be held, but only specifically on, I guess, how businesses can better secure their areas. So not sure if that's something that you guys have offered as of yet, but is there something that you could possibly do in the form of like a Zoom or even if it's just a pre-recorded like informational, here's what you can do as a small business to better secure yourself in the wake of everything that's going on, and understanding that you may not have the bandwidth to do a whole session for the community, but I think in the wake of some of these crimes that are happening, I also know businesses are closing a lot earlier than they were previously because of the nature of the crimes and what's been going on. Is there something that you can do either as a pre-recorded, here's what you need to know, this is what you should do, maybe you want to put a buzzer on your door, maybe you want to make sure your cameras are okay, put your money away, don't leave money in the cash, but just kind of that, is there something that you can do for our businesses around that? And that's to both the 2-5 and the 2-3.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I did mention that our crime prevention officer does do security surveys on a case-by-case basis. So basically he will go, you can make an appointment with him. He will go to your business and he'll basically conduct a checklist. He has a checklist of everything that he will check for at your business, what you can improve. He'll give some suggestions. I think it's a great idea to maybe get something together, if it doesn't already exist, of some general things that everyone can do. But I think it's so important to do the security surveys, because you will get like basically what your specific business needs to improve on. And that's very important. Sometimes general things are so general that it doesn't really help us. It doesn't help your specific business. So that's really something that we can do.
So I think, so to that point, I mean, I think a general is great if there's something that's pre-recorded, because it's something that maybe people can pass around. I don't know if this would, like, you know, counteract, because there's a possibility then that, you know, if you have something that's passed around, then I guess maybe it could also get in the wrong hands too, maybe, right? But so there are 2 points to that. Pre-recorded would be, I feel like, would be helpful, or if you just had a checklist of things that you could pass around, because not everyone's on this call, and I'm pretty sure that all the businesses don't even know that you have that unit, right? Like, I mean, people that are tapped in probably know, but not everyone knows that. So I think that either if you have a flyer, you know, about contacting that individual, that would be great. But I also think that either like a checklist or something that's more general that could be shared, you know, even with our organizations here that primarily work with small businesses, you know, Union Settlement, Uptown, Grand Central, that might be helpful, because I think that there are some businesses that still need that information. And officer, yeah.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of literature, a lot of flyers
Okay.
directed towards different types of businesses, whether
Okay.
different time, commercial robberies, burglaries, petty theft, stuff like that. And we would love to be able to hook up with as many businesses, because what we do in our office, and our crime prevention officer, is if we see a chronic trend, like we see corner groceries being robbed, we'll go to every single one. We have like 78 of them in the 23rd precinct, and it was time consuming to hand flyers to a guy that
is
trying to sell food in the middle of the day, sell stuff. So it would be great. Like I have attended a meeting with Uptown Grand Central where they had 35 merchants on, and that was very cool presentation. But like an email distribution list where we could email flyers, update them with what we're seeing out there, be aware of. That would
be awesome. And would you be willing, Officer Givens, would you be willing to do something maybe like, or if we just had like a session? I know you said you did one, I guess, with Uptown Grand Central, but if we were able to do another one again and just like have something where it's like a you know, just like a quick, maybe not answer every single question, but do something again where we have, and if possible, you know, 2.5 and 2.3, just say like, look, here are the top things that you guys need to do, you know, at least make sure of these things, and then if you need to, then we can schedule a one-on-one for maybe afterwards. But that might be helpful for our community right now in the wake of, you know, some of these areas getting hit twice. You said 7-Eleven was a couple of times, and you know, some bodegas and corner stores. So would love to speak to you about that, just as an offering, you know, for our small businesses. It's just been so much going on right now. I think we just need some more information on how to be safe.
yes, we'd love to.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be in contact.
Yes.
Thank you.
We would love to do it as well.
Thank you both so much. We'll reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. You have Dawn with a question? Dawn, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna, I was gonna just say that when I had a business on one of those blocks that there's a lot of drug trafficking, and I couldn't really afford great cameras. I had false cameras and I had a few floodlights, and it seemed to make a very big difference. So, you know, I know it's great to tell a business to go get a camera, but even if they can't, they can only have one real camera, they could get 4 non-working cameras. And so I had to do a lot of different creative things at my own cost, but I think it's definitely worth, because every business that can be protected from the trauma of getting robbed is, you know, I think it'd be worth it. So, and I think when we go back for the lighting surveys, I think we should talk a little bit more about putting more lights where these crimes take place the most, if possible, if they're open to having more sites, like 114th and Pleasant, I can definitely see that area 109th and 3rd in terms, this is going now to car thefts, but maybe we can work together on that as well. So, but I just want to thank you both. Thank you, Officer Gibbons, and thank you, is it Lieutenant Cosme, for being here.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you, Don. Kyoka?
I just wanted to quickly respond to Marissa. The DA's office has been hosting meetings with small businesses in the neighborhood, which Henning and a couple of other officers are a part of a task force, along with Uptown Grand Central. And so they've been discussing that along the 125th Street corridor. I know that East River Plaza businesses were a part of that meeting recently. However, I know that Xavier and I have been talking about some things happening in the community. And one of the things that we had discussed putting together was having a community council for the businesses. So we are almost at our last meeting in June. And so although that seems like a long time, we were going to host a meeting specifically for businesses in the community. So we would just invite businesses. We're also doing the same thing for clergy, so that in the future, everybody feels welcome to come to one big meeting. But it is definitely something that we are putting together. It's a little difficult because we're short-staffed in some of our sectors. And so it was a little difficult to kind of get people to go out and do hand flyering and figure out you know, what day we can use, but it is definitely something in the making. And I guess if maybe doing a whole East Harlem one makes sense, then we'll do that. But we definitely had it planned for the 2-5.
Thank you, Kyoka. Questions, as always, we want to thank Mr. Gibbons, Mr. Cosme, 2325. Appreciate all the work you do for us in the community. Look forward to so we're going to move on with our informational updates. We might have PSA 5 here or the MTA Police Department. We're going to move to Marco Perez with the District Attorney's Office.
It's me, Jose.
Yeah, go ahead, Marco. We hear you.
Thank you, Jose. Again, my name is Marco Perez Jr. I'm the East Harlem Community Engagement Coordinator at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Thank you, Kyoka, for bringing up the Small Business Alliance. It's also something I wanted to bring up. We did host a couple of meetings amongst businesses within Manhattan. We had our Harlem Small Business Alliance. We had our Midtown Small Business Alliance. Really just trying to gauge different ideas and how we can help in assisting public safety when it comes to recidivism and commercial theft. So Marissa, I will drop my email in the chat and I will be more than open to connect on that as well. Other than that, we have a couple of announcements. The Manhattan District Attorney has announced his expansion of the hate crimes unit with multiple chief deputies, as well as 2 executive members of his team, Executive District Attorney Joyce Smith and Chief of Strategic Operations Shang Terrell Sung. And having this expansion, we are being more capable of handling hate crimes within the Manhattan District Attorney's Office with staffing multiple experienced investigators and assistant district attorneys. Other than that, we have an announcement that we are having a gun buyback on June 25th. I've shared the flyers with Angel, and I will ask him, please to share with everyone within in this audience. Essentially, the gun buyback again is on June 25th, and we're having it in June in preparation of Gun Violence Awareness Month. And as mentioned earlier, there are payouts for active pistols and rifles up to $500. And the limit of how many guns a person can surrender to the gun buyback is 5. And the gun buyback will be receiving guns from community members with no questions asked. And I've I will want to emphasize this again, no questions asked. The guns will not be traced, dusted for fingerprints or anything of that nature. I understand that there are community members within the community that have concerns about this. We really just want to be able to help aid the community in getting guns off the street, and I will send further information on this. Another announcement I would like to mention is Manhattan District Attorney's partnership with Senator Cordier Clear and entering 2 bills within the state Senate to address human trafficking. These bills will extend the window of allowance of a survivor to submit and file a lawsuit being a victim of sex trafficking, as well as getting rid of the original eliminating the original statute of limitations, as well as providing more protections for people who are victims of human trafficking and have experienced mental or incapacitation of emotional trauma. Other than that, excuse me, lastly, the East Harlem community partners are getting together to have the Art of Healing. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office will be organizing this event. I will be having a full experience in organizing this event. We are partnering up with different local community-based organizations, and I ask everybody on this call if you want to be part of the Art of Healing, which is an event to create a safe space for people to address gun violence through creative art expression. We will be having this event coming soon, and I will be having a flyer ready for you all, and I will share that with Angel and make sure everybody has that. I am open to any questions anybody has for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office.
Michelle, sir, comments, question, then followed by Justice Morris.
Thank you for your presentation. I was talking and I didn't realize I was still muted. I have a question that is more so just to find out, do the bills have a specific number or a specific name? That's the first question. And the second one is the unit. Is it an actual unit for the preventive hate crimes with Joyce Smith and Terrell Som?
Yes,
Or-
yes, yeah, is an actual unit. And I can also get you that information. I will put my email in the chat. We have an actual unit dedicated to handle hate crimes within the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And there are actual numbers and references to those 2 state bills. I will get you those proper and accurate numbers. Again, I will put my email within the chat and make sure that you have a link to our press release that has all that information in regards to those 2 bills and the partnership with Senator Claire Cordell.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Michelle. Justice Morris, go ahead.
Thanks, Jose. You can hear me, right?
Yes, loud and clear.
Just to confirm, Marco, June is Gun Violence Awareness Month, correct?
Yes, June is Gun Violence Awareness Month. The gun buyback is on June 25th.
Okay, good. And so my question is, the DA's office, you do work throughout the 5 boroughs, or are you specifically focused on Manhattan? And the reason I ask is about the focus of the Art of Healing event and whether it's specifically geared towards Manhattan communities or if it's a citywide focus.
So in short, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is focused solely on the borough of Manhattan. But in terms of the Art of Healing event, we invite all community members, not only exclusively to Manhattan. If there are people within, visiting the area and would like to join the event, they are more than welcome to do so. But our office, in terms of everything else besides the event, is focused on crime that happens within the borough of Manhattan.
And do you know where you're intending to host the Art of Healing?
We are intending to host the Art of Healing at PSMS 7.
Which is where?
That the accurate address to that is, I'll tell you right now. We just got the confirmation and the address is 160 East 120th Street, New York, New York, 10035.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Jessica, Don, you had a question?
Yes, thanks so much for coming. I just wanted to be refreshed. Is the DA doing a program for cars that that are altered to be loud? That's one of the questions. I think that you had said that. And then my other question is about, is there any sort of a plan for fireworks this summer, or? Because there's that targeting of loud cars, and I'm just curious if there's sort of quality of life sound.
Right. So go ahead. I don't want to interject.
No, I didn't know how to put it, but I found that last summer, I mean, mixed with the gun violence, the fireworks, it gets a little bit much. So I just wondered if the DA, or if there's some sort of a plan for the summer other than the loud cars.
Right. In terms of I understand the way that it was phrased. If there's a program to address the fireworks and loud cars, am I phrasing that correctly?
Yeah, I thought I heard that there was going to be
Right.
a program for the loud cars. Like if the car has been doctored to sound loud, then that's.
So in terms of an actual program and or course of action, I don't have that at the top of my head right now, but what I can do is put my email in the chat and circle back with you with the accurate information. I don't want to assume or give you inaccurate information. So I would urge you to please email me, and then I can have the proper person and the point of contact who addresses quality of life explain that for you.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Marco, thank you so much. We appreciate you always coming and informing
Thank you
us.
so much, everyone.
It's great news for the gun buyback. We look forward to working hand in hand. So we'll make sure we distribute that so we can get a great turnout.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And again, just to mention, the gun buyback is June 25th. We'll be sending those flyers out shortly, and we are appreciative of everyone just spreading the word.
Thank you. DOT, what do we have here for DOT? Is Jackie here or is Lau?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
There you go. Hey, Jackie, you're with us. Great.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. So let me see, just a few things. So for 117th Street, we still don't have any updates as of yet. So, as soon as we have any updates, either myself or Lyle are going to be reaching out to the board, let you know what's going on. But as of now, there isn't anything to report on that end. I did hear Dawn mentioned a request for additional street lighting. So I'm going to put my email in the chat, and, if she can just send me those locations, I can definitely send that over to our street lighting unit to go and see and conduct some surveys for that. And then the only other thing I have would be the walkthroughs. So, I think the next scheduled corridor that we want to do is 106th Street. And I know Lyle has been also in contact with the 2-3 precinct, and they wanted to join. So Jose, I don't know if we have any availability for
I've been
Friday,
in
May
contact.
20th.
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So I guess I will
I would
confirm that
extend
with
to
Lyle
anyone in
and
this
see.
committee that would like to participate as well. Do you have a timetable, or is that something you'll get to us later and we can distribute?
Yeah, I don't have it at the moment, but I think once we just confirm the time with the 2-3 and also our signals, I can send that around so you can share with the board as well. For anyone that's
Sure, that'd be
interested,
great.
feel free to come and join.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions.
I have a few questions. I have a question myself, but we'll go first. Michelle has a question.
Hi, yes, thank you. I appreciate what you said. I just couldn't understand something that you said at the very end. The walkthrough is at 106th Street on Friday, but I just couldn't get the date that you said. Did you say a date?
Said May 20th.
May 20, okay, thank you. And what time would that be?
She doesn't have a time yet. She kind of just brought it up. She will send it out to us, and I'll make sure that I forward to the committee so that.
You're cutting it.
Oh yeah,
cutting...
sorry. I think for 3 o'clock on Friday, May 20th.
Oh.
The time we have right now.
Okay. I was hoping I could come. Thank you.
No problem.
Jessica has a question.
Thanks, Jose. Sorry, I'm slow with the mute. Let's see. Sorry, Jackie. Thank you for the updates. And I have a question about there is an initiative citywide about the DOT commissioner is committed to safe streets and equity. And through implementing any number of raised crosswalks, something that I heard from folks on the street on 116th Street between First Avenue and Pleasant Ave would be an interest in potentially a mid-block crosswalk that would perhaps be a raised crosswalk to mitigate some of the speed that happens at the end of that street as people are turning off of First Avenue or blowing down the east end of 116th Street. And I know there is a culture of, just ask and we'll look into it. But I think together with the city's initiative of looking into raised crosswalks as safety mechanisms, traffic calming measures, and the high prevalence of both seniors and schools and past traffic incidents in that very vicinity, it may be something worth considering, and fully aware that any raised crosswalk would be an engineering investigation feat study by DOT, but for consideration.
Yeah,
Please let me know if you need
I'm so sorry, could you
clarification.
repeat? Yeah, if you could just repeat that intersection. It was 116th and
so along 116th between First Avenue and Pleasant Avenue.
First and Pleasant. Okay, yeah. I'm also going to drop my email.
Great, thank you, Jackie. A number of years ago, there was a fairly tragic death of a young person right on the corner there. Since then, some significant traffic calming measures have happened at that intersection, but it's not really been fully resolved. So as we work our way up in that direction with our walkthroughs, I think to start to plant the seeds of the types of things, that might be observed along the way whenever we get there would be good.
Yeah, of course. And thank you for bringing that up. It doesn't hurt to look and see what we can do to make this street safer.
Thank you.
Jessica, Kyoka.
Hi, Jackie. I just have a question about lighting. So I know that you guys do a survey when there's a request done for lighting to be installed in certain areas. I'm just kind of concerned that when you do a survey that there are certain areas that do not really have lighting, that the buildings are providing under adequate lighting just to be suffice because it's dark, specifically 117th Street between Park and Madison, closest to Madison near the garden. there was a light installed, but the trees cover it. So it's still so dark that we can't even see what we're stepping in when we walk down that block. So I'm asking and hoping that another survey can be done.
Yeah, of course. And so if those trees are like in city trees, usually you can reach out to the New York Parks, or I'm sorry, the Parks Department, and they can go out there and do some tree hemming or trimming to remove the branches that are blocking the street lights. But I can definitely take this back to the team and see if that's something that if it's additional street lighting or if it's something that we need to refer to our colleagues at Parks.
So I just wanted to also add that the tree trimming was done. The light is so high that it doesn't illuminate the street. And so I think also the placement of where it is, it's closest to the building where there's already light. So between where the garden is and the street, there's no light at all. And if we're going to use incidents as a situation, we've had 2 young men, one killed and one shot, and video was not able to show who the individuals were because there was no lights. Not that there wasn't any cameras, it was no lights.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I will definitely see if we can get the team out there to do a survey. And just to confirm, this is on 117 between Park and Madison.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Jackie, please don't forget to put your email in the chat. I'm sure you'll get a couple questions.
Yes.
Also, we had a question from a constituent about construction on 2nd Avenue and 111th Street. They were curious what exactly was happening there. And you may not have that answer right now.
I believe that was.
But if you do, even better.
Yeah. So I know Lyle, I think he mentioned it during the DSC this morning, but he is still looking into that and he's trying to get some further clarification on the scope of that project and possible timeline. So once we have that information, we'll share with the board, but we have not received anything yet.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any? So that was. Wait, I said 2nd Avenue and 111. Were you talking about 117 from Pleasant? Because that was my next question.
Oh, no. So that's I'm talking about the bike lane on 2nd Avenue, right? Like this is the sort of construction that's going on there?
Is that what they're doing, 2nd Avenue 109?
I believe so, yeah.
All right, could we research that? I'll take some pictures and I'll send it to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And do we have any update on 117? I know that DOT has been in contact with East River Plaza, and I wanted to know if there was some resolution.
No updates as of yet. I think we're still in talks with the with the mall. So as of now, there aren't any updates.
Is that a new question? Or?
It is, yeah, Jose. It's just a point of comment around the street improvement that's being planned at East 117th Street. There was some controversy, and I apologize, I missed the full board meeting, so maybe it was discussed then about some of the club-based street spillover activity there. Based on some of the businesses that are in operation right at that point where the redesign is happening. It's something that DOT may not be aware of, but that at licenses and permits, I brought up that there was this investment happening in that area and that it may be good for DOT to be aware of. Some of these I'd call them pedestrian challenges as far as late night club-based activity that has been causing a fair amount of unrest in that hyper-local neighborhood. So as they continue to do their work, I think another stakeholder would be to, to understand what that culture is like, not just foot traffic during the day going to and from the mall, but also the late night activity that's being cultivated in that area.
I'm not sure if one thing has any reference to the other, but because the activity, that business is on the south side, and what they're doing is going to be on the north side. And technically, there's no parking there as it is. People still park. That's an enforcement issue, not a DOT situation. But definitely something that we can bring up to them. But I'm not sure how relevant. The biggest issue we had was just to backtrack was that the mall, in order for us to get, instead of getting the plastic bollards between the pedestrians and the car lane, we wanted something more rigid, something that would really be public, safety. We wanted something permanent there so that a car couldn't go through there, couldn't just run over the plastic bollards, and maybe if a car lost control, wouldn't smash into pedestrians, right? And DOT had an issue with Blumenfeld, which is the owners of East River Plaza, in regards of who's going to maintain it, and they're trying to work it out. I'm going to circle back to see if we have any information, because it's something that should move forward. I know DOT wanted to move forward, but just to give you a recap. Carlos Diaz has a question.
Just to follow up, sorry, Jose, there, it's not a super wide street. And so the activity on one side of the street and the
No, I know
investment
that's
improvement on
the
the other.
concern, but unfortunately, the amount of pedestrians there, DOT is definitely, and this was brought up by our councilwoman, there is a necessity, because the street, originally they thought that people would walk to 106th Street, 116, but that's not what people were doing. So most people are walking on 117th, and then we have a lot of people walking on the street. It's just an ongoing project. Carlos, what was your question?
Yeah, could you give us an update of what's going on with the Park Avenue, 112th Street to 110th Street? It's been closed for over a year and a half, and people have been complaining. The traffic has been detoured to Lexington Avenue. That's been a major problem. Could you give us what's happening with finishing that job on Lexington Park Avenue 112 to 110?
DOT. I'm sorry, Carlos, I'm not aware what that, is that a construction project or is the
It's a
street
construction
closed?
project, and it's been closed for the last year and a half, and there's nothing
Carlos,
happening.
it's sewer work from Sendero Verde.
Yeah, do you know when they're gonna fix that or repair it so people can go right through?
It's something they came to land use to tell us about. I don't know, Angel may be able to say more about when it's slated to wrap up, though they may be behind schedule. It wasn't intended to take 2 years to do the work, as far as I was aware, when they came to land use some time ago.
Angel?
So we're gonna circle back. Jackie, you could find out for us though, and get us that information.
Yeah, I'm gonna check in with our permit unit and see what is the latest
Because
with that.
that construction does cause significant, and we've had a lot of constituents give complaints on Lexington Avenue. Basically, everything in that area becomes a huge traffic jam due to that closing. So if you could find out for us,
I
that
will
would be great.
flag.
Thank you.
Yep,
And we
I'll
have
flag
a
in,
question from
update.
Officer Cosme.
Yes, hi. I just have a question for DOT. We put in a request a while ago for a street sign change in front of 2290 First Avenue. I just wanted to check in on the status of that.
Is that the one that is on the agenda for tonight?
Yes.
Okay. So let me just double check. Give me 1 second.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. And this was to accommodate the soup kitchen, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So for this one, because the soup kitchen is located in between the it's located between the viable parking, so it's 3 spots there, and it's right in the middle. So the regulation would have to be for all 3 parking spots. So, our team is happy to look into it. We would just, that request would require a CB letter of support.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Jackie, I really appreciate you being here. You might want to stick around since you're probably going to be mentioned in this. Any questions?
All right. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Thank you. Now we have Jessica Morris going to speak on the federal infrastructure funding report.
Hey, Jose, when you asked me about this, I didn't realize it was going to be an agenda item. But so all I have to offer and all I have to say, this is more of a general informational update for the committee. I think we're all aware with the passage of the infrastructure bill, this community will be greatly impacted by funding streams that are supported through that bill. I'm aware that the board has in the past, I think, had a Second Avenue subway task force, and there are many efforts to make sure that the community is informed. I think with that, there may also be a good opportunity to speak up about some of the investments that we would want to see in infrastructure related funding streams. And the sort of the time is now, both with our city agencies beginning to write grant applications for specific funding streams, and our state level electeds going to bat for specific funding streams. So I can do some research and get more specific about what some of the opportunities might be that a community like ours in East Harlem should potentially consider voicing support for and asking for, beginning to make some asks that can work in tandem with some of the big items like a subway, will, I think, be a very smart and essential opportunity to make sure that it's not just rolled out without some of those finer, more nuanced points of connection that are possible to support all sorts of different types of community aspects based on roadway safety and not just necessarily mass transit. So thank you, Jose, for the floor, and apologies, I'm not more prepared, but hopefully this can be something we continue to talk about in the next, maybe next month, and then when we return in September, if we don't have any action next month.
Thank you, Jessica. We have a question from Officer Costa.
I think that may have been an old hand.
Maybe. I saw her. Maybe it wasn't. All right, thank you. I had a great conversation, something I wanted to bring up in informational updates with Russell Schuler. He had a great concept about having a task force that not just encompass CB11, but our neighboring community boards as well, regarding youth violence, in regards specifically to youth violence. It's not an action item or a point tonight because it's not something that would come out of public safety or not my purview or our ability to have a task force, but it is something that I'll be bringing up in executive. And we'll see. And I spoke to Xavier already, our chair, to see if he can reach out to the neighboring community boards to see if they're interested in this. But I did think it was a very interesting and needed concept because it's something that intertwines all our communities, big youth violence being our highest public safety. So I did want to mention that, but that will be going more toward executive since, like I said, any task force goes through there. Okay, so now let's move forward for our presentations.
Jose, can I pipe up on the Juvenile Justice Initiative just briefly?
Sure.
So I appreciate you bringing it up, and I spoke to Russell as well. And I think it's, for board members to recognize an issue like this that goes beyond our jurisdictional bounds. I think part of the intention behind mobilizing or potentially mobilizing as a task force is because as much as we all care, we don't have the solutions, and they don't stop at our arbitrary borders. So the intention, right, is to acknowledge the task force type of thing as a vehicle to be able to work with other adjacent communities in understanding and thinking together about how to support action for a deep-seated, long-standing challenge and problem that has not found resolution. So thank you for giving it voice, Jose. And I think it is something that through executive and this committee, ultimately, if the task force is something that materializes, is a long time coming, and hopefully there can be support for all the good work that's also going on and has been for a long time as well.
Thank you. Yoka, then Xavier.
I think the task force sounds like a great idea. I think one of the things, and we talked about this, youth violence in East Harlem is unique in culture, even different than when you pass Fifth Avenue in East Harlem. So I think it is definitely a conversation, something that should be put together, but I think it should be very, very purposeful and very strategic, understanding that there are two absolutely different cultures that we're serving. East Harlem has the most amount of housing developments in New York City, aside from Brownsville, Brooklyn. And the conversation has to look a little different. Might be similar situations, but our situation is way different culturally. And I really support the effort in building a task force for that purpose. I have to jump off, but I did want to say that leading up to gun violence awareness, there's going to be a ton of stuff happening within the community, a ton of events. We have our Cure Violence programs, but we also have community councils that do lots of work around this. So we would be wearing orange on June 2nd. We will have t-shirts available, and somewhere there'll be a rally. We are hoping that the Public Safety and Transportation Board on Community Board 11, aside from Xavier and Jose, will show up to show face that this is an epidemic within our community that needs a voice, so that we can be a part of the prevention and a part of the cure. So please look out for those flyers, and hopefully you guys will come out.
Thank you, Kyoka. Xavier?
Thank you, Jose. I'll try to keep my comments as brief as possible. And yes, thank you for raising our conversation from earlier. Appreciate that. And also to you, Kyoka, there are ongoing constant conversations, and to Kyoka's please, everyone who's on this committee, everyone who's in the public, there are opportunities to participate, because again, the culture here in this community, there were block by block areas that you would not walk down certain streets or certain sections of avenues by certain blocks, because you knew that was an area you were not allowed because of where you lived, where you grew up, or who you were associated with. And again, that culture is extended beyond years, but decades and generations. And part of our cure is to approach it in a very holistic measure. And I appreciate the advocacy and recommendation with what seems to be a Northern Manhattan agenda and uniting us. And again, but I think if we do it, it should be done in a very exacting and surgical approach. Earlier today, between 4 and 5, I was on with the East Harlem Community Peace Advisory Board, listening in and working on ways we can actually advocate for improving the safety in this community. And but again, many of those programs, which I term as crisis intervention care, violence interrupters, et cetera, and so on, they're funded to handle certain developments or certain sections of our neighborhood, our community district. And there's not that overlap. So again, I think any task force that we at executive and as chair take under consideration, I please bring all the data you can do. We will work together. And as you know, I'm always accessible, so long as it's not in the middle of the night. But thank you for the work you're doing here and the recommendations. I look forward to exploring this option. And I will also bring it up in our quarterly meeting with all of the chairs of Northern Manhattan, CB 9, 10, and 12. So thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. Okay. So that, again, that's something that we're going to bring up an executive and have more conversations on. So we're going to move on now to presentations, discussions. We have quite a few presentations tonight. So we're going to start with request for parking regulation change to install a no standing anytime sign at 2290 First Avenue, 118th Street. New regulation would facilitate the deliveries for the food distribution operation of Fraternite Notre Dame. Pio Cosman is here.
Yes, hi. So I just wanted to present this on behalf of the Fraternite of Notre Dame Sisters. They live in 2290 First Avenue. They're a group of about 10 to 15 sisters. The head sister, her name is Sister Mary. She approached us wanting to change to see if we can get the no standing or no parking. I'm not sure which one would be better for them, but basically they hold a food pantry every week for the community, giving out free food, groceries, all that type of stuff. And they have a 12-passenger van where they load up all of the food to bring it to their house in order to distribute it to the community. And they've been unable at times to do it. Sometimes they'll get ticketed. They will be unable to find any place to park the van in order to unload their deliveries. So that is the main reason why we want to help them out in this regard.
Do we have any questions? Parts of this? Jackie?
Oh, yeah, so I just, I do want to clarify, even though this entity is affiliated with a religious institution, because it is not an actual place of worship, to install the requested signage, we do require a letter of support from the CB. So, yeah, I just wanted to flag that for you guys. And then also, if you guys want to facilitate deliveries, it would most likely then be that you're requesting a no parking anytime signage, because no standing does not allow for unloading.
Okay, thank you for
yeah.
the clarification, but that is what we mainly need it for, or well, they mainly need it for.
Yeah, so in this instance, it would probably be best to request a no parking anytime signage. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, because the location is right in the middle of the permissible parking, all 3 parking spaces would have to be converted to no parking anytime.
That's right.
it was just something else to consider.
Jose, you're muted.
Thank you. That was Jackie. You also had your hand up, but you just spoke. So Marissa has a question.
Yes, hi.
Oh, go ahead, Jackie. I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Who's on? Jose, who are you recommend?
I think Jackie just spoke. So let me
Yep.
in regards to the I didn't want to in regards to like which is our, so it's not no standing, it's actually no parking. Right. So we may have to make that change. Marissa, you had a question, and then Jessica.
Yes, hi. So also as a resident and always just trying to think of something that is fair for both sides. Is it possible to have a no parking between certain hours as opposed to just a no parking or no standing, what have you, period? Only because parking within the community is already becoming an issue. And so I don't imagine that they'll be having deliveries at like 12 a.m. or, but could you do a no standing or no parking between certain hours, which would be more palatable for people that live within that vicinity?
I believe they'd be open to that. I would just have to check in with them when exactly they receive their deliveries or how late they've ever received a delivery. That's something that I can check with them about.
Because I know when I do see, it's usually like, it's not early in the morning, it's usually like in the middle of the day, what have you, when they're unloading the truck. But yeah, if we could do it from like a certain time and have it on the earlier end, not the later end of, the time that they would need, that would be very helpful to the community as well. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
So that is definitely a good point, which I was going to bring up. Jessica, go ahead.
Thanks, Jose. And thanks, Officer Cosme, for bringing this to us and giving a heads up, helping to sort of navigate the process here. Curb management, it's a time sensitive challenge when there's high demand, and it seems like the actual need as far as an open curb to be utilized is fairly limited. Did you mention a couple of times a week the unloading happens?
Well, that's the thing. They receive deliveries throughout the week. The day that they hold their food pantry is one day a week, but they receive deliveries throughout various days.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to better understand, what would help support their operations, while, as Marissa brought up, balancing the needs of local residents. And I think that's something that is a sort of reasonable expectation of not an all the time thing, if it's not needed, but where there's potentially a need. I guess my question is, does this happen often where curb use gets, how the curb parking lane is used gets renegotiated at this hyper local level? I think it's a wonderful potential. And I ask because I know curb use and parking along First Avenue is something that has come up in my, time on the committee in different, with different asks, whether, usually it's losing parking to one or another function. And so that starts to chip away. And so I guess I'm not sure what the sum total effects are. And it would be good to have an understanding of that when making concessions to accommodate, a particular group.
Yes, I completely understand. I know that, they're not the only ones on the block. So of course, we take that into consideration. My only concern, is when they have these deliveries, sometimes it's things that are very heavy and they are very older women, 50s, 60s years old. They can't park all the way around the corner and then carry these things in. It's very hard for them. Those are the complaints that they were giving us. If they do double park, then they'll get a ticket. So, and they don't, they don't work for a living like everyone else does. They don't get paid for what they do. They do everything voluntarily. So that's just the concern from us, from the precinct, that they're actually helping the community in one sense. So that's, I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. Yeah, it helps understand the scenario. I think there's no real ask yet, if I understand that correctly. How does, and maybe Jackie can help us better understand, what the process would be, as far as, if there's a formal ask that comes from a community organization, but there's a need for a community board support in order to go forward with that. How does the process work relative to where we are now, which is still an information gathering part of the process, I think, in wanting to better understand.
Jackie actually said earlier, Jessica, that they would need community board support. For
But who asks who for what first is what I'm getting at, Jose.
Sorry, what?
Who asks who for what first?
We would have to do a resolution, send it to DOT, and obviously they would ask us first. Another question from Michelle?
Hi, I thought we were asked to take it under consideration at this point. That's what the whole discussion was about, to find out ways to accommodate these individuals that are doing work for our community. And having curbside for deliveries, that it seemed to be popping up around all of Manhattan, where there's certain sections at the end of the street that says this is specific for delivery. Oh, sorry, my cat just did something, for deliveries of whatever items, but it's like a huge, instead of having double parked trucks, triple parked trucks to mainstream traffic and to keep the flow, these curbsides have been popping up. I don't exactly know what they're called. I didn't take a picture of it, but I know that it's specifically for delivery trucks.
Thank you, Michelle. Marissa has a question.
So I just wanted to note too, I am in, I know we're still talking about this, and then there may be some further discussion around a specific time frame that the parking is available. But I also think just for us, like as a committee, if we do decide to support this, that we think about, specifically why, because we could start to have an influx of different organizations saying, oh, well, we also need parking, or, my back hurts, and not to say that this, I specifically understand what this request is for. And again, personally in support of it around a certain time. But I think to ensure that we're not just going to open up the floodgates and say, anyone that needs parking in front of their space, that we're now granting it. That if we do move forward with an approval that is very specific in nature to what's going on here, because again, we don't want to just say, you can't find parking, I can't find parking, and I need to bring my groceries, that we have a specific parameter around this this ask and this vote once we move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. I believe the work they do for the community is a little different than just anyone asking for a parking spot. I do
Jose, you're like going in and out. I don't know.
Sorry, I
it's
don't know if it's my mic. I think I'm having some technical issues, but I do agree that I have to speak louder. Sorry if I sound loud, but you know, the work they're doing is for the community. It's a little different than just anyone, but I do agree that we have to go back and get some more information because they may not need this no standing all the time. Taking parking like that away from the community, you know, we've always, in public safety, we've always fought hard on any DOT project, anything like that, to make sure that parking remains here for the residents. We're constantly having these issues. We have huge fights with the city when they take parking without even telling us, as they've done in the past. But I think we'll go back and try to get the correct information of when exactly it is they need it, how often it is they need it, and see if DOT can accommodate some of that. Carlos, you had a question? You're on mute. You're muted, Carlos. I can't hear you. And then we have Officer Closman again.
Definitely, this is located exactly across the way from where you have a bus, bicycle lane, and then you have no parking on that side of the street. Is that where located where the pizzeria is located? Because there is no parking across the street. And people do park there, but there is a sign that you can't park a certain time there. Is that the area that we're talking about? Hello?
Yes, it is across from.
It is, right? So there is no parking on that side of the street, and then you have a bicycle lane. So you're really taking additional parking space. But I'm definitely in support of doing a survey and, you know, using it in certain times where you could, you know, park the vehicles so they could unload. But keep in mind that that's the problem, that you have no parking on the other side, and then you have a bicycle lane as well, which is across the street.
Okay, no problem.
Officer Closman?
Yeah, so yeah, I'm just looking at the Google Maps. I just want to make sure that I have all the information, but it looks like there is parking across the street from where they are requesting. And I just want to kindly note that it's not just their place of business. They also live there. So that's why, like, they're also a part of the community, and that's why I feel so strongly to try to help them out. I think it's a good idea to try to accommodate, of course, to see like what times and etc. they would mostly need it for. But I just want to make note of that as well. It's not just their place of business, they live there as well.
Thank you for clarifying that. But we would have to get in touch. I'll be in touch with you. Typically here in this committee, what we do is we listen to it, we digest it, and then we vote on it the following month. Happily, we're meeting in June, and we still have some questions that we need directly from them, particularly when it is that they absolutely need it, because the no standing anytime would not allow anyone to be there, you know, even overnight. So, you know, it would be prudent that if they're, you know, asking for this, particularly for certain times of the day, you know, that would be something that we would be able to accomplish with DOT. But if you could get us that information, that would be great.
Sure, I'll work on that, no problem.
So much. Okay, so we're gonna move forward. Next presentation is Concrete Safaris. We have Heavenly Evangelista.
Hi, this is Mac Levine.
Oh, Mac, you're here too. Hi, how are you?
I promised Heavenly I would introduce her.
Perfect.
So I'm Mac Levine. I'm the Executive Director of Concrete Safaris. And Heavenly Evangelista is our health promotion lead. And we have been looking at the relationship between gun violence data and our gardens, Jefferson houses, over a number of years. And she's been helping to analyze that data and create a report. And so we wanted to share that with you, being that this is a Public Safety Committee, and also get your feedback on what we could be adding or subtracting, or questions you had. So with that, I will give it to Heavenly, and I don't know if there's a way for her to share her screen, but she does have a presentation.
There is, Angel. You have to unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna start.
Yep, you're muted.
Hello, sorry. I just got it correct. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. Since the backyard, this safety report shows gun violence from 2017 to 2020 in and around Jefferson Gardens. From 2017 and 2020, in and around Jefferson Gardens, run by youth and residents from Jefferson houses. In 2020, gun violence had a dramatic increase due to COVID. It put a hold on citywide programming and gave children no positive activities, and few to no outdoor and indoor programs were available for the community. The mapping dot that represents Jefferson Garden. In 2017, the green represents the garden. The green represents shots fired near Jefferson Gardens, as well as the red and orange that represents shooting and homicides. As we look at the maps for 2018, we can see a huge difference with the distance the gun-related incidents. Already in 2018, gun-related incidents moves over from Jefferson Gardens. There are a few images of outdoor play in our program. The first image is on 116 from 3rd to Lexington, and it's an open street. The second image is our after-school program in Jefferson Park. East Harlem in session increased over 79% from 2019 to 2020. Sorry. Overall, 2019 had the lowest of gun incidents. During evening hours, there was an increase of 75%, but there was a decrease during after school and late nights. 2018, in West, experiences at decreased 2019, moved further away from the garden. Here are some more images of our gardening where volunteers and community members come help out in the garden. That's Jefferson Gardens, by the way. East Harlem in session, which is April from December, increased over 79% from 2019 to 2020. There was a 200% increase in gun-related incidents. During after-school hours, programming was between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. by 160% from 2019 to 2020. Overall, there was an 81% increase in gun-related incidents from 2019 to 2020. The youth proposed intervention future, which was more outdoor community events, free community mental health services, gun violence prevention education, surveillance, access to jobs and opportunities, more outdoor recreations, parent involvement, and outdoor play. And that's it for the presentation. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, you can ask. Thank you.
Do you have any questions for Heavenly? Jessica, go ahead.
Thanks, Jose. Thank you, Heavenly, for bringing us your analysis and work. And I know data is challenging to interpret and share. At the same time, the connections that you're making between the activity-based focus of the work you're doing in the garden, on the ground, in the space between at Jefferson and elsewhere, to be able to draw connections, whether they're direct, immediate connections, or whether whether it's data points that align. I think it is a powerful statement to have data that correlate to a hypothesis that investing in the type of activity and the type of work that you and your peers are doing reduces violence and increases health and wellness. It's just the tip of the iceberg. And I think that's what's so exciting to hear from you in this regard. So please feel welcome to continue to come back and keep us updated on how the good permeates from the work that you're doing. So thank you for sharing. I don't have a question necessarily, but open ears and encouragement, because I think it's important to continue to read into the effects of what you're doing beyond more green things.
Thank you so much.
Jessica. Do we have any other questions for Heavenly? Don, you raised your hand literally. You're on mute.
I also have my
You know it is, it blends in with your background. So
I keep trying to change it. But anyway, I just wanted to also say thanks. Please keep up the good work. Please keep us informed. And also I think not only us, but I think other people around you, other young people would like to know and should know, what the landscape is like. I live in between Jefferson Annex, which is 111th, and then Jefferson Houses starts on 112. And it's really interesting to see that data mapped out like that. So I guess just piggybacking off of what Jessica said, this is really important data. I'm glad that you're the one bringing it to us, and I hope you continue to keep us informed. So thank you so much.
Thank you again.
Is that another question, Jessica, or was it still?
It is, yeah, it's another invitation and comment. I think there's some connection, Heavenly, in the work that you're doing to some work that other, youth colleagues have been doing relating to reducing violence through environmental investment. There's an exhibit at the Center for Architecture, which is downtown, and I'm happy to share the information with Mac and the Concrete Safaris team that looks at some thinking about improvement across not just Jefferson, but also Johnson and Wagner, and particularly people in each of those places doing work together separately, but coming together to share those insights. So I'll share that information with Mac, and if there's an opportunity for you and your colleagues to come down and check it out, I would hope you let me know, and I'd be happy to meet you there and continue connecting those dots.
One of the, this is Mac, one of the people in that program, Bobby Hall, was part of the original young people in our after school that made the Jefferson Gardens in its first year and helped with the visioning for that. So she's had a long history of learning how to look at her neighborhood and start thinking about how it might operate differently from the youth point of view. And I saw her name on the list and I jumped. It's pretty exciting to see what they do,
It's really special. Thanks, Mac.
I had some questions. Is there a particular time that you can register for this? Is there a limit to how many people can have in the program? Obviously, I met Mac at Kyoka's council meetings, and tonight is really about resources. We hear so much that we don't have resources in our community, and I think this program, along with the next presentation by Michael Parker cases, these are great resources we have in our community to help to prosper, to get these kids on the right path. So which is why we asked them to come and present. Is there a summer program now? If they register, how do kids register? What's the process?
So we have summer camp for our first licensed summer camp, 6 weeks. We'll be at PS7, and you can apply online at our website, concretesafaris.org. There's a button at the top of the page. Our summer youth employment, the deadline ended on Friday, but there's always next year. We're hiring also for interns now, and that's directly paid by us to the young person for an environmental health literacy internship, and that's year round at different points of the year. And then we also have opportunities for, I guess, larger scale impact. So like if you are connected to a school and you want your kid's class to come, or you're a teacher or an administrator and you want your whole school to come. Like one of the issues we've been seeing is that a lot of the schools don't have a science teacher or outdoor space. So they're using Jefferson as that space. And our instructors are able to teach their students the science related to whatever the lesson is at hand. So it's in compliance with the state, regulations. So those are a few ways to get involved, but you can also just write to Heavenly. Maybe Heavenly, you could leave your email in the chat, but she is our health promotion lead. She can help you get whatever health promotion you'd like in your life and share with the community. She's the one who sends out flyers. She's the one who organizes for young people to know about our events and posts on social media. So we really want the young people that come through our program to get as much opportunity to actually use their skills and build their knowledge. And this is the start of sharing that. So I hope that you will connect with her as a resource. And thank you for your time, everyone.
Thank you so much, Mac. Thank you so much, Heavenly. We really appreciate the work that you do for the community. And Heavenly, could you also put the website on the chat so in case anyone needs, they have that as well?
Okay, yes.
Now we're going to move forward with our presentations. We have Michael Parker from Cases here. Good to see you, Michael.
Good to see you, Jose. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Parker. I'm the director of ACES, Assertive Community Engagement and Success. Our parent organization is Cases, and I wanted to take this time just to present to the board our program, our impact, and who we're actually targeting, and to let you guys know just some great information. So ACES, again, Assertive Community Engagement and Success, is a multi-year program supported by Cases that provides therapeutic education and employment services to young people who are identified in our communities as being at risk for the involvement of the criminal legal system. To kind of put it in the simplest terms, we primarily focus on the young men ages 16 to 24 who are targeted in gang life, who are more than likely involved in like the shootings, victims of shootings, young people that primarily do not attend community programs, young people that may have dropped out of school. We like to kind of pride ourselves as the opposite hand to the cure violence programs, like as we all know, Save East Harlem, who primarily serves our area. The ACES model is a relentless model where we work with young people for a 4-year time frame, following the model of cognitive behavioral theory, where we really understand that the real change for a young person is not overnight. It's going to take a tremendous amount of time. So we're engaged with young people over the duration of 4 years, young men. Our youth worker approach is a relentless approach where For referral, it is 100% anonymous. Right now, we're getting primarily our referrals from the police department, the 23rd, the 25th, and the PSA 5, and we've been getting a tremendous amount of assistance from them. And we're also working with the district attorney that's worked with them in their youth court section to receive referrals. We are directly targeted only in East Harlem and the South Bronx. And that is one of the main reasons why we're glad to speak to the community board, because right now we are desperately looking for resources of people to let us know, let young people know that our program is actively engaged. There is no identification requirements, no boundaries for when a young person should be engaged. All you really have to do is just give us their information, their address, and our youth workers will do the relentless outreach to assist the young people. We offer GED, work readiness program, mental health services. We actually run a crisis management program that will come to your home, or you can come on site, and we assist young people in any services that you can think of, whether it's court advocacy, helping with identification, assistance with HRA, job readiness, shelter services, anything that you can think of where we can assist a young person that may deter them from violence or being the victim of violence. That's what we target. Again, our office is located on 4 West 125th Street. I'll be sure to send the information in the chat and be available for any questions. But right now, not only are we actively pleading to the community to, if you know of any young people, whether it's people in your building, people that may be congregating in your businesses, all you have to do is just reach out to us at our email at aces@cases.org, which is ACES@cases.org. Again, we are targeting young people ages 16 to 24. It is primarily for East Harlem, so there's no boundary lines whatsoever. Our young people, our youth workers, we do home visits. We meet young people where they are. We attend courts. We've been to hospitals to visit them. It really doesn't matter what the boundaries are because we pride ourselves on crossing that boundary line. And we're actively looking for young people in the East Harlem area who desperately need our help. An example of referrals that we normally get, one of our commanding officers in the area gave me a call today because they were in contact with 2 17-year-olds that were in possession of guns. And eventually, once they be released, they would like us to work with them. They only give us the names of the young people. We do not go to the young person and let them know where the referral came from. We trust in our beliefs of our youth workers and our staff that we build that trust over time. And ideally, a young person will be open to change. So that's a lot that I kind of put out there. I know it's pretty late in the evening, so I'll pause for any questions. I'll definitely share our flyer to anybody that's interested. But I also wanted to point out too that we just reopened our mobile outreach and crisis program. And I'll just share the core services of what we're providing. Crisis intervention, complex care management, referral to community and social supports, client and family management, medication management, and peer support. And this is open to populations of 18 plus, serial emotional disturbance, SED, serial mental illness, substance abuse disorder, criminal legal system involved, co-occurring disorders, navigating the reentry for community from jail or prison, experiencing acute emergency crisis, and COVID-19 hardship. We're open Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 and Sunday from 9 to 5. And I'll also share that flyer as well. Thank you guys so much and have a great evening. And I'll pause for any questions.
Great program. Questions for Michael? Don?
I just want to say thanks. I think what you're doing is so crucial right now. I think sometimes it's just those, I don't want to say little things, but it's just, you never know when or how you can save a young person's life. And I'm grateful that you're out there because situation seems a little hopeless right now for a lot of young people. So anyway, I just want to thank you and ask you to continue to come back. And if you have any good news to share about young people making decisions that improve their lives, please bring them to us because it is, we need the, well, I need the motivation. I need to hear some good news too. So again, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Jessica and Michelle, followed by Marissa.
Thanks, Jose. Thank you, Michael. I've got two questions for you. One, how do you build your team? Part of how you do your work is through being discreet and through building trust, which is not flashy. But the second part of my question is, how do you make sure your team stays grounded in the incredible work that they're doing and feel supported as well?
That's a great question. We focus straight to the point with cognitive behavioral therapy, even as a staff. So we're debriefing morning team meetings, we're checking in, we're making sure that our staff is present. We very much, we work Monday through Friday because we believe in like personal workspace and personal space. So we don't operate on the weekends. We have a strong outreach team. So like our youth workers are not responsible for outreach. Our youth workers are responsible for connecting with the young people who we're targeted to work with. So we have a team strategically for outreach. We have a team strategically for youth working that's going out into the field. We are actively right now currently hiring for more youth workers right now. So we're looking for more talent on the team. We were looking for co-ed, male and female, bilingual, non-bilingual, college graduates, those that dropped out of high school. We really don't discriminate on our talent, but we also don't discriminate on understanding that it's so much work that we have to do. So we try our best to balance. Those that know me, I'm born and raised in Wagner houses, but I used to run a program in Jefferson houses, and us knowing that culture alone, you know, the whole team is kind of just dedicated to that overall work. We have staff that are court involved. We have staff that were formerly incarcerated. We have staff that just recently graduated from college. So like we have a full array of just any type of relationships that may be necessary. We take pride in just hiring those that are experienced and understand the work. But that was a great question.
And then follow up is, what can we do to support your work?
Keep inviting us to these spaces. I think that's the most important. You know, we're creating right now a card, that outreach card that we're going to be sending out to a lot of our partners with a QPR code, which we're going to be giving out. We're doing an outreach calendar pretty soon that we're going to be at some of the high targeted areas like the train stations, the malls, and different locations where we know young people are going to be at. Connecting with Xavier and Jose and the rest of you guys have just given us just the heads up of events where you want us to be at, where we can give out that information. Our sole goal this summit is to just make the proper connections to young people, business partners, any stakeholders and resources to say, let them know that this is available, because our work is only going to work if they know that we're there for them in the times of need, where it's some of the most unpopular times, like courts, precincts, hospitals, home visits. We're the staff that goes to that work. Honestly, if they're able to go to a boys club or a concrete safaris type program, they wouldn't be an ACEs participant. Like our work is primarily for those that do not get engaged and prefer to not be engaged.
And then just sorry, follow up last bit is what I heard last weekend with some open ears and in some cultivated safe space was about the need for a real sense of opportunity when you do kind of work through, that's a part of it, is that recognition kind of on the other side is, if it's there, if it's not there immediately, it's a block. Do you connect to that on the other side of sort of acute trauma, acute need?
Yeah, we connect on that side. We're also constantly being trained on different mechanisms and different theories that kind of help us understand the work. We work with an organization called ROCA out in Baltimore. So like the staff spends a lot of time going to Baltimore. We were just recently in the field, just learning from different areas and just learning and connecting from those other organizations that if they're not doing it close to what we're doing, we're comparing and studying different ways of how we can kind of work with young people in different areas. So as we're building out, we're learning different ways of trying to do things better, but we're definitely open to any ideas or expertise, and it's an open door policy at ACES.
Jessica. We had a few hands. Did they get answered? I know Michelle's hand was up, then Marissa, then Xavier. Michelle, do you still have a comment or?
Oh, they thank you. And a lot of it was answered because I have gone to courts with different youth and over a course of a few years, just to make sure that they can stand up and get out of the whole spiraling down that seems to happen when they get less and less engaged, and being able to find self-care for the people that you're working with so that they don't get exhausted is extremely important, or just lash out in an unhealthy way to the youth that they're helping. That is so important. So I just wanted to make sure that you know that whatever we can do, I just think that your program is great, and that to not be alone and that you're all together helping is so important. And to get more groups, I think it would be a beautiful thing. Thank you for your work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Ms. Clement. Thank you.
Marissa?
Yes, so hi, Michael, how are you? I just wanted to mention a few things. So I know that you are connected with the MAP program, and then I'm sure, and still with GOSO and SAVE. I would also recommend for you, if you haven't already, to talk to our Youth and Education Committee as well. And that might be something helpful for you to do at and additionally, I know you mentioned that you have some flyers that I believe you're going to start to hand out throughout the summer, but also understanding that the demographic you're working with is probably not reading our e-newsletters per se, but the people that connect with them or touch them might be. So just to ensure that you share whatever you have in terms of flyers and or information with us so that we can disseminate that out. And then just one other note too, that if you want to connect with other organizations within the community, that may be a great idea too, right? So the same way that you're connected to GOSO and SAVE, the same way that you're connected with the MAP program, there are probably other organizations that could also serve as allies to you for that that information. So continue the great work. We know each other, but we don't know each other. But yeah, but continue the work in the community, and you know, we will continue to support where we can and to push people
Thank you,
towards you.
Marissa, so much.
Yeah.
Right now, we're at the capacity that we can take up to 10 youth workers to do this work. Each of our youth workers have the capacity of 20 young people per caseload. Right now, we only have 4 youth workers. So that should kind of let you know the capacity and the bandwidth that we're willing to stretch to feed this need, but we're still actively looking for talent and also looking for young people to serve. So we're going to be here for a while, and we're just getting started. So any advice and any leads, we're definitely taking it. Two of my people from my outreach team is on this call now, and they're taking names and probably going to be doing a lot of follow-up so that we can connect the dots. So I really appreciate it.
Well, that's great too, in terms of if you're hiring too, as a chair of economic development, you know, let us know so that we can connect people and send people your way. Even if you're able to connect with summer youth that way too, you know, that's helpful. But yeah, so keep doing the good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Xavier?
Mike, thanks for being in the space. It's we're overdue a catch up. I would say no, thank you for the other questions from these committee members here tonight. Thank you, brilliant. Credible messengers is key, and I think you and I've had these conversations time and again. So whatever way we can work together, and also to realizing that our borders don't stop within the community district of East Harlem. And furthermore, it doesn't even stop when we go into the South Bronx. And we know there's a lot of travel between those neighborhoods. So I'd love to have a postmortem conversation with you and better ways we can strategize, knowing that you have 6 spots available that we can potentially activate credible messengers is very helpful. I'll put on my thinking, Kevin, I mean, circle back, but I thank you for being here and always welcome in the spaces. We try to fill those gaps from the lack of equity over generations. Appreciate you.
Great to hear from you, X.
Thank you, Xavier. Michael, thank you so much for the presentation. Always, the program is phenomenal. We look forward to sharing you with economic and youth and everyone, every other committee. You know, but you came here first. Don't forget that. I'm gonna rub that Marissa's face. Thanks a lot, and we're gonna move forward now. Angel, could you move back to the agenda, please? We have some more business that's kind of there lingering. We already spoke about 117th Street. Congestion as well. Do we have anything new with that? I'm gonna get some information for 117th Street in regards to where we are. And I'll definitely get back to the committee to see. I believe, and I overheard that they may have reached a consensus between the two, but I'll confirm it and get back. Let's move forward, Angel. Appreciate it. Next screen, Angel. Oh, Dawn, you had a question.
I had something for new business, but I'm having a few technical issues, so
okay,
I will hold on.
No worries. Then after new business, we're going to do announcements again. So if anyone has an announcement, raise your hand. I know that
Oh, I'm
Jessica had
sorry.
some announcements.
I had a new business item.
Did you? Okay. Are you? Go back.
So I'm not sure if you can hear me so well. Can you hear me okay?
Sounds okay.
Okay, I'm calling in from my phone. I don't know what happened on my laptop. So I guess one of the new business issues I have is that hopefully we can start having discussions about all of the modes of transportation within our district. I've mentioned before, and I'm glad I heard today a little bit more about like holistic planning. Like, for example, if the soup kitchen changes the parking regulations on that entire street, you know, what are the ramifications for the people who live there, or maybe disabled people who live in the building upstairs and need to be dropped off. I just would like to have discussions moving forward about residential parking permits, about claiming back some of the parking spaces from the zip car. You know, I just feel like it's important to look at living in this community from everybody's point of view, because I think it does become a quality of life issue. I think there are people living in their cars in our district, and it just makes sense to discuss where we are as a community. I mean, Mr. Diaz pointed it out earlier, but you know, 10 years ago or 12 years ago, when we agreed to give up half the street parking for bike lanes, then, you know, another 30% left with the bus lanes, and each year it's just taken away and eaten away at. And I just want to make sure that we don't neglect the fact that people do still drive in this community, and we're not trying to look down on people and tell them, you know, well, you ought to be on a bike. So, you know, I just feel like every once in a while we should refocus. I noticed that land use was approving buildings to be built in East Harlem that have no parking.
And back in the day, if someone wanted to build a building in this neighborhood, they had to have those amenities so that they didn't put any stress or pressure on the existing community. So those are types of things that I would like to have a discussion about. I don't know if the community board is like anti-car and going for car-free Manhattan, but I would like to know where we stand on that.
I don't think the community board's ever been anti-car. I think that's a kind of false statement to make. The city, however, I will agree, has become.
This community board has been anti-car. On the record, it's been anti-car, and I just want to see where we are now.
Could you remind me of that?
Yeah. So when a lot of these decisions were made, right, about bike lanes and bus lanes, the community board was pretty clearly aligned with the elected officials who also agreed that there should not be cars in East Harlem. So, and that's on the record. I mean, you have to dig through the tapes. And so now that we're at a point where we are building buildings with no parking, right? Because eventually there will be no cars. I just want to make sure I understand, you know, why there's no holistic planning about existing street parking, right? So, and it just seems like we would like to get rid of street parking because we don't talk about any ways for it to peacefully coexist with our ideas for getting rid of cars. So,
I mean, I can tell you, being the owner of a car service, that I'm not against cars. But look, I think I saw the email you sent was very broad. I think we need to break these all into smaller pieces and then talk about it in that sense. Otherwise, it becomes a little too jungled. The Zipcar, the city did that without any community board approval, without even kind of coming to us. They just it was just there one day. It was unfortunate.
Well, not only that, they came and lied and said it was a 2-month pilot.
And then they changed it to a 2-year program.
Right, 2 year, and now it's permanent.
And now, I don't know, I'm not sure if it's permanent. Definitely something I want to look into. But yeah, I believe ever since I've been chair of public safety, we've been pushing for every construction that we've done with DOT to minimize their effect on parking, because parking is definitely something that is an issue in our community. I do believe everyone should have the right to have parking. I know that the city, the last speaker, I don't know about the current speaker, but the last speaker was very vocal against cars. Congestion pricing coming in is a proof of that. And I think he said something that people should just walk and bike, but that's not a real reality for everyone, as we've discussed, you and me in the past. So definitely, I think that some of these things, I definitely like the idea of residential parking. Particularly as congestion pricing goes in, we have that concern that people that live outside of New York City will drive into a certain area, then park in this area, and then kind of move down. But you know, it's definitely something that we can converse about, but we have to kind of break it up, because otherwise it just becomes a lot of different things.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I would love to start with the parking permit, because that's something.
Yeah, we can look into. They were supposedly running a model when Dennis Rodriguez was council person.
Right.
He was chair of transportation, and he was supposed to run a model in his district, which is Inwood, the Heights. He's now the chair of DOT, interesting enough. Right. So I can find out. I know the current council over there, and I can find out how that, if it ever went into effect, what happened with it, because they get even more of that, obviously, because of the bridge and people coming from Jersey and just kind of parking and then going and taking the train. I'm curious. I don't have that information, but I can definitely find out and we can bring that back up.
I would love for that to be an agenda item that we can follow up on. I could spend some time, because
I'll definitely, if I can get that information, we'll put it on for June, because I think that's definitely something that we've been discussing in this committee for quite some time. But
Yeah, but
I'll try to get that information. I just don't know what happened, but I know for sure that they were supposed to pilot it.
well, we might have to nudge them a little bit more.
Well, maybe they did pilot it, and we wait for the results.
Well,
I'm not sure what they did. It's not our district. So.
Right, but we seem to be part of a lot of pilots that are aimed at reducing parking and reducing private ownership. I understand that, but for me, it's an economic justice issue. That if you're rich, you'll be fine with transportation in the city. If you're not rich, then your options are limited, and I don't think that's right. And it's not just for me; it's for people who have elderly people in their families. Like our district is overwhelmingly elderly and disabled, and not everything can be done on a bike. And I
overheard something from the Heights, and I'm going to look into that as well. I overheard that they were removing a bike lane, and
not here.
That I overheard that recently, like this week, and I was going to look into it to see what the process was. If it was by usage. When these bike lanes were put into place, that was the biggest, pushback, which is how much use are they really getting? And honestly, like I don't see much use, but it's curious. Jessica has a question.
I just wanted to close off with just one last thing. The 2 teenagers who were shot on 5th Avenue in front of Schaumburg, right now there are bike lanes along 5th Avenue where you cannot park. If you're an ambulance, there is nowhere for you to park. If you have an accessoride, there's nowhere to stop. It's no stopping, no standing, and there are no parking spaces. So, I just feel like we need to start thinking more holistically about how these decisions affect everyday average people who don't have a voice here. So that's the last thing I'm going to say, Jessica.
Thank you, Don.
Sorry about that.
That's all right, Don. I think just 2 points I want to sort of throw down in the midst of this bringing up of new business. And I think related to, I know we received an email from Angel about the budget and our budget requests and the responses there relative to our committee-based asks. Parking permit did get a response, and so that is worth continued follow-up. And the fact that the DOT, not just chair, Jose, but commissioner,
okay, yeah.
But I think
we know what I mean.
I absolutely got what you mean.
Thank you.
Impassioned about the frame of equity embedded in transportation. And so, Don, I don't know what the answer there is, but there's a friend who understands the things you're getting at. Sort of at the seat of power, not because he's a technical expert, but because he is the people, right? In that way. So I think we should really push on that in the next 3 years while we've got those ears and ability to understand, where we're coming from. The second thing I want to just offer in this space is electric vehicle charging stations. I asked that as a question because it's something that the city, the state, and the federal government is pouring lots of money into. If we want it, let's ask for it. If we don't want it, we can not ask for it. But I know that my neighbors around the corner, the vehicles that they charge are not cars necessarily, but they are other types of vehicles that still plug in. It's part of that micromobility frame, whether it's the good kind of vehicles or the bad kind of vehicles, regardless, that's their mobility, and they run a cord out the window, out of the front of Metro North houses or whatever's on my block, and they charge their electric vehicles. So is that infrastructure we should have here as an option? Probably. Would this be the first place you'd think of that would ask for electric vehicle charging stations? Probably not. Next door to Bloomberg's house maybe is. But it's a question of whether that future forward is something that belongs here, or has a use here in a number of different ways that could serve the community that are not necessarily top of mind in what we think about when we think about electric vehicle charging stations. So
The problem with that is they would take parking, and most people in our neighborhood, electric cars are still not kind of paramount. So some people do have them, but not a very large amount. So let's say we change the Zipcar to charging, you still couldn't park there though. So
Yeah,
it would be only for electric vehicles.
Right, but they can ask
People
us
that
to
own electric
just-
vehicles are very low amount.
They're very
Kind of
low.
like the chicken and the egg, but
electric
we would have to
vehicles
do a
also
research.
have two wheels, Jose, and I think that's the frame. How many
I see
scooters
them, like even
fit
on
in a
my block,
parking
they do that.
space?
They run an extension cord, and that seems to work, and they do have two wheels. It's just saying, if our conversation is about retaining parking, we change that from Zipcar to electric charging only. Some places do have that. Most of the neighborhood, at least in this neighborhood, still couldn't park there. Because I don't see too many electric vehicles around here that are from the neighborhood.
Well, there's 33 zip car spots. Take 4 of them and make them for electric charging instead of just us getting snowballed by all these decisions.
But we
Sorry to
will,
speak out
I
of
do have a point to check where that Zipcar, realistically, we are an advisory board, right? And sometimes we will ask and keep asking and do the good work. Doesn't necessarily we have that power to just say, hey, but we got to keep doing the work because eventually they do listen to us. Okay, let's move forward. Oh, we have announcements before roll call. Jessica, I think you had some announcements, and if anyone else has announcements.
I have a question.
Oh, Carlos, how are you?
Yeah, I went to the car show, and one
Good.
person who's coming out with these electrical power grids is going to be Con Edison. So maybe there may be an area that we could reach out to find out where they're talking about putting those electrical power for electrical vehicles.
Reach out to Con Ed. All right.
Con Ed, yeah.
I think Tesla had a plan that they were trying to implement.
Yeah, Tesla has it, but Con Ed is going to be coming out with a whole bunch of units that are going to be dispersed throughout the city.
All right, thank you, Carlos. We have Marco Perez.
Yes, I wanted to make an announcement, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Jose. I appreciate it. Again, I mentioned this earlier, but for people who joined in later on the call, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office is having a gun buyback on June 25th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The drop-off site for the gun buyback is Soul Saving Station, 302 West 124th Street, New York, 10027. We are giving out prepaid cards, a $500 prepaid card for an operable gun or assault rifle, $150 prepaid card for a rifle or shotgun, a $50 prepaid card for BB guns and imitation pistols. There is a 5-gun limit on each payout. I also want to emphasize that this gun buyback, there will be no questions asked for anyone who's surrendering any type of firearm. It would not be looked into. These guns are disposed of once they're given to our gun specialist. As well as I wanted to go over quickly some recently, I should say frequently asked questions by community members for clarity. Do I need identification to surrender a gun? No identification is required because again, these guns are not looked at in any type of way once they are given and surrendered. Again, that's no questions asked. Another frequently asked question is how do I bring a gun to the drop-off site? It must be in either a plastic bag, a paper bag, or a box. If you're transporting the gun by car, we ask that you put the gun in the trunk of your car. And other than that, if there are any questions about the gun buyback, you can call this number 646-610-5323. And I will be sharing the flyers with CB11 for everyone in attendance in this meeting today. And again, I'll put my information in the chat, and I look forward to working with you all in addressing public safety in East Harlem. Thank you, Jose, and have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, Marco. We appreciate you. Jessica, did you still have that announcement you wanted to make?
No, Jose, I think we covered it in the overarching and thorough agenda.
Thank you. Do we have any other announcements? All right, so then let's do roll call.
Jose Altamirano,
Present.
Eric Alcancela, Diane Collier is excused, Carlos,
Present.
Judith is excused, Ascendi, Marissa,
Present.
Jessica Morris,
Here.
Miguel Pava, Don Sanders.
Present.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, what's your comment?
Present.
You have quorum.
Thank you. Thank you all for doing the great work. Have a good night. Appreciate all of you. Be safe. Thank you.
Thanks for the robust agenda, Jose. It was an inspiring meeting.
We actually